So since it's Friday, what we want to do is take the principles and models that Murphy has showed us and apply them. Now, a lot of what we're going to do today is, not everything, but a lot of what we're going to do today is relabeling the variables in models you've seen. Now, the application today, you can see here, is redistribution and work. It's a pretty important topic. Redistribution is a lot of what public policy does. And of course, labor is the majority of production factors, at least if you measure in terms of factor incomes. So let's see what we can do with the principles we already have. So think of an industry here that follows a predictable seasonal pattern or cyclical pattern. It's going to be predictable in what we're going to talk about today. And each cycle, so to speak, takes one unit of time. And during this cycle, during each cycle, there's a change in the surplus from work. The way I've drawn it here, first it falls, hits a low point, and then rises again before the cycle repeats itself. Now let's think about, that's a surplus from work. Now let's think about introducing a subsidy or benefit for people who do not work, and just for the people who do not work. That amount we're going to denote B, and I've drawn it here as a horizontal line because the benefit received while not working doesn't depend on what date you're not working. So for somebody choosing somebody, or perhaps together with their employer, deciding when there should be work and when to be out of work, there are periods of time where the benefit from being out of work exceeds the surplus from work, and vice versa. And I wanted to label kind of the crossing points. The first set of crossing points I'm calling separations, because there the worker is going from a phase where being at work, the surplus from work is greater than the outside benefit, and they're transitioning into a phase of not work. So I've labeled those in red. And then in green, I have labeled the other transition, the transition from out of work back into work. And in this little model, we can easily calculate the equilibrium employment rate, meaning the fraction of time at work, and the non-employment rate, the fraction of time out of work. And so that's what I've done here. And these rates depend on, of course, the details of the blue line, and they also depend on the benefit. The larger the benefit, the larger will be the non-employment rate, and by subtraction, lower employment rate. What I wanted to do is look at the effect of B, the benefit, on the non-employment rate, and decompose it into two pieces. So I took the non-employment rate here, and I asked, well, what's the marginal effect of B on that? Clearly it's 1 over 1 minus M. And then I broke that into pieces. Sorry, the color went a little bit off here. There's a red piece, and this is supposed to be an all green piece. I broke it into pieces. And the first piece reflects the effect of the benefit on separations. And the second piece reflects the effect of the benefit on hires. So this is one of the principles that Murphy has mentioned many times, that people respond on multiple margins. And in this little model so far, we have 2 margins. More generous benefit will, at the green dots, cause them to go back to work more quickly, and at the red dot, cause them to leave work sooner. Now you've probably seen studies, the green dot is pretty heavily studied. The policies are such that you get rather sharp and targeted changing the incentive to return to work. So there's been a lot of study of, okay, does the benefit affect the propensity for people to get back to work? When you lower the benefit, do they get back to work sooner? And the answer is yes. And then, of course, there's a debate on how much. But one of the lessons here is, of course, let's measure the second green term as well as we can, but that there's still that first term that's there. And the first term may be unrelated to the second term. So you might find a small effect for the second term, and it doesn't mean the first term is small. In fact, what I'll show you in a second, there's one kind of comparison you can make where the smaller the second term is, the bigger the first term is. So learning that the return to work isn't very sensitive might tell you that the leaving work is sensitive. Let me show you that comparison. What I'm going to do is compare this, this cycle to a somewhat different cycle where the A is moved to the right. So that's the next slide. See, we've just moved A to the right. And now, having A move to the right means there's a very short period of time where the surplus to work kind of goes back to its peak. And that's more or less when people are going to return to work, regardless of what the benefit is. You can see if you were to move B up or down, the green dot would, of course, move up or down, but it wouldn't move left or right, which is what counts for the employment rate. On the other hand, the separation is still sensitive to the benefit, the way we've drawn it here.